Hi, welcome everybody to Psychic Profiles. And today we're going to meet Hayden. And Hayden Crawford is in Perth, Australia. And he sent me all the guidance so that we could get together at the same time. Thank you, Hayden.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure and an honor being with you, Nancy. It's nice to actually see you in the flesh.
I know we email back and forth a lot, but and my oldest son lived in Guam for about 15 years, 15, 16 years. And he lived over there with his dad. And I just gave up on the time zone thing and what day it was. I just called him when trying to time zones with all the dealing with the four in the US is enough to almost do me in. So,
I
but
get it. I do. Yeah.
it's
Hard.
tomorrow morning where Hayden is. It's Tuesday evening where I am when we're talking. So, what we're
I'm
gonna
in your
do?
future.
Yes, Hayden really is in the future, guys.
I
We can
am.
make predictive things. Wednesday gets here. Okay. Uh, I'm going to ask you 20 questions. Just feel
Okay.
free to fill them out as much as you want. We had a couple of people say, I really don't like to discuss that. That's fine. Whatever. It's okay. When did you first realize you might have psychic abilities?
Um, hmm. Well, that would have been very early on,
Mm-hmm.
from being a child, but really I only developed them
Mm-hmm.
after my midlife awakening. So
Ah.
yeah, I went through a bit of a rocky patch. You know, a lot of people would have said a midlife crisis, but I like the term midlife awakening because it sounds nicer.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself actually almost guided into to developing it again. So I left corporate IT recruitment after 15 years, and a couple of weeks later, I found myself working behind a big turquoise curtain in the Blue Buddha in Busselton on a Saturday, waiting for people to come in and do readings with them. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just very natural for me, you know. I'd worked with tarot cards years ago, you know, when I was in my
Mm-hmm.
teens, and I used to carry them everywhere with me and
Mm-hmm.
always read everybody, you know, just anybody that I could. And then I threw my cards away because I felt like it was all way too much responsibility. And then it wasn't until in my early 40s that I picked up a deck of cards again and just started reading them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always been easy for me to understand things like tarot and oracle cards, and it's like it inbuilt in me, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. Okay. And what's the single aha moment? And you're saying you had stuff when you were younger, then you left IT and then you walked into it. Was there a big aha moment going on other than I don't want to do IT anymore?
Um, Well, it was because I was just started getting really angry. So I started not even recognizing myself because I realized I was living somebody else's life. And it was one day, I think Mark and I had invited my parents, well, my mum and her husband, now Robbie, and my sister around for dinner at the house. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know what was going on with me. I was just so unhappy because I knew that I was off track and it was all building up in me. And I just felt like nobody was seeing me, understanding me, listening, hearing. And I just had a massive outburst. And, you know, I was like shouting at everybody, telling them to get out of the house. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it turned into a right little Lord Fauntleroy. And I remember like running off to my bedroom, and my mum came into the room, sat on the bed, and she went, I just don't even know who you are anymore. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't
No,
even
it's
know who I
true.
am either. Yeah, it's horrible. But that was, you know, an aha moment, I suppose, for me was just like, you really need to get your stuff together
Mm-hmm.
because this ain't going to end well if you know, if you continue doing IT recruitment, you know.
Yeah, well, especially and the people in that field are my youngest child's a computer security encryption specialist. And a lot of her best friends when she was online as a teenager were in Australia. She used to
Mm.
do a show about Japanese anime with a bunch of Australian teenagers too. And yeah, there's times I don't understand who she is, but that's fine. She's happy doing that. Uh, did you notice any unusual experiences when you were a child? Is there like after you came through your crisis and you looked backwards?
Hmm. Yeah, well, it's funny. I was thinking about this morning because I've recently been following a guy called The Alchemist 369, and he talks about out of body experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I have these memories when I was a kid of I used to come out of my body because I used to float down the stairs in the house that we lived in, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember it so clearly. And then I obviously dismissed it all, because I must have thought it was a dream. But I remember like flying as well, and um like just having no like almost having no weight to my body when I was on a ferry
Mm-hmm.
once as well. Like I was floating around, and of course you just shut it all down, don't you? Because you're told that none of these things are true. So yeah, I think I was leaving my body, from a
Mm-hmm.
very early age, and I haven't been able to continue doing that. I think I must have just believed that it wasn't true or it wasn't possible.
Yeah, we talk ourselves out of some of our best stuff. We really do.
Don't we just?
Yeah. And how did people around you react when you decided to start sharing your psychic experiences or you came out and as an adult or even when you were younger?
Hmm. It's always I was brought up in a very liberal family. So
Mm-hmm.
my parents were just really, you crack on and get on with your own stuff. We've
Mm-hmm.
got our stuff that we have to do. They didn't really judge me, but I always felt very encouraged, certainly by my parents. I always felt like I didn't fit in at school though. I was one of those outcasts. I was always the last person to be picked on the football team. And I used to hide round at my grand's house in Stokesley when I was at school. I used to just go and watch Going for Gold and Neighbours, and bunk off double
Mm-hmm.
sports and all of that sort of stuff. So, as a general rule, it was easy for me
Mm-hmm.
to just be me. But I always felt like certainly my own age group, they all thought I was a bit weird.
Yeah, but you know what? If I talk to people who claim to have no powers at all, although I don't believe that exists in anyone, they all feel awkward and felt they always remember the time they were the last one picked for this or that kind of stuff. If you really want to see life change, go to your 50th high school reunion and see who the guys that were always the one first chosen, see where they've ended up. You'll be happy you are where you are. Anyway, did you seek training or did you just develop your own path?
Both really. So I've always just trusted my own inner guidance. So I like that. But I have done certain courses along the way and had certain spiritual mentors
Mm-hmm.
at certain phases, although I didn't really call them that. They were just people that I felt connected to. And it's interesting because I always seem to resonate with the more mature female teachers
Mm-hmm.
as well. So Melissa Jolly, who developed the color mirrors that I work with, I really connected up with how she perceived reality,
Mm-hmm.
and she helped me to really sort of start decoding the language of light. And
Right. And
yeah,
you, so you learned tarot when you were young, and then you work with color, and you did Reiki for a while. Was that part of your path from here to there?
yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So myself and my husband and another lady, we all went through our Reiki journey together. So all the way up to
Mm-hmm.
Reiki Master, but it took us 12 years. So we did our first one in Spain, the
Mm-hmm.
second one in England, and the third one in Australia. So over, 6 years in between.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's between each one. And yeah, so I did the whole Reiki master thing. I trained 18 Reiki masters along the way myself. My
Mm-hmm.
my teacher, I had two different teachers with Reiki, Julie O'Rourke, who still does it in the UK, and Nigel May, who I don't know if he's still teaching Reiki, but he taught me my
Mm-hmm.
mastership. So yeah, I mean, it's a very good foundation in energy healing, Reiki. For me, it was just like the bricks and mortar that I
Mm-hmm.
needed to understand human, body anatomy, and also
Mm-hmm.
the subtle bodies, and the just how healing works really,
Yeah.
and of course, the introduction into the color system through the chakras, etc.
Right.
But then I also trained up with the Australian bushflower essences as well. So I did that for a few years. And that's how I really started my practice, was learning all the
Mhm.
different therapeutic qualities of the Australian bush flowers.
Yes.
And they were amazing because they helped me, on my own awakening and development of my own skills and gifts.
Hmm.
Um, and numerology, of course, then I trained with all sorts of different forms of numerology and found I loved Pythagorean.
Hmm.
So there's been lots of modalities, that I cultivated and honed and really took to the highest possible limit along the way. But then I developed all of that, with human design, some astrology as well, to
Hmm.
develop the Oversoul Codex, which is my signature process that I work with now.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Hmm.
And you've mentioned several mentors and teachers. What's the best piece of advice that they gave you when when you were training?
Um, that really you can't force anything. It's really about intention. So with healing, it's always goes back to intention. If you have an intention to want to help somebody to heal, or if you are somebody who wants to heal, just literally, hand it over. You
Hmm.
there's an infinite intelligence, a divine intelligence that runs through everything. And if you have a desire for, healing, then you have to get out your own way, really.
Hmm. And how did you learn to tell the difference within yourself from your psychic impressions and what's in your own imagination?
So for me, my imagination, I'm a very, very creative person. So I
Hmm.
know when my imagination is going off on one, because I see things visually. Whereas with my intuition, I feel things, and it's often information that comes through to me that I it'll just come through in like a split second. It might be through symbols. It could be through words or feelings more so. And really, with that, along the way, I had to learn to trust as well what was coming up
Hmm.
for me. So I went through years of doubt,
Hmm.
doubting the information, but then I was just getting too much proof, too much evidence
Hmm.
that things that I was saying, because I was feeling them, were accurate. So
Hmm.
you learn to discern between, the way imagination flows through in a creative sense, and the very different form of information that comes through
You
intuition.
know, my psychic impressions are clearer than whatever I can imagine. That's always
Yeah.
kind of how I kind of filter them. But okay. And what moments have there been times when you really doubted yourself and you thought, well, you just said you took off that break from when you kind of put the cards down and then went into did all that adulting that
Yeah.
you were doing.
Yeah. That's exactly right, Nancy. It was like I'm a massive doubting Thomas. I always have been. So
Hmm.
it's been an inner battle, really. I've had a fair amount of inner conflict with regards to, even sort of getting on this um, path as being my soul work. So that's why I delayed it until I was in my early 40s, and I spent so much of my life in corporate. So I've always doubted, and I think that's probably been one of my biggest lessons in life, that and patience, because I'm not a patient person, and I tend to push away, a lot of stuff through doubt. So I probably don't do myself any favors.
Well, no, someone didn't ever doubt themselves, I'd really worry about that. I
I
mean,
would, yeah.
yeah. And how do you handle skepticism from others?
I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, if I'm not here to prove anything to anybody, people will only really seek me out if they connect with me anyway. So I don't really come up against any form of skepticism really from anywhere. And if I get trolls on, like when I'm doing a TikTok live, I just block, delete, and ignore.
Hmm.
But don't let anything impact the way I feel, because I know, I don't just believe, I know.
Hmm. I know what you don't know, so please leave me alone. Right.
Yeah, exactly. You go and do that over there.
Mhm. Go talk to that other reader that I don't terribly like.
Yeah.
Okay. Have your abilities gone through weak and strong phases?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Nancy, because I was thinking about this the other day as well. I think that certainly when I first started honing my clairvoyance,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was something that was very, very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Just after I'd left IT recruitment, I was working in that spiritual shop and
Mm-hmm.
doing readings. It's almost like because I was put on the spot, and I was
Mm-hmm.
almost it made me sort of delve
Right.
deep. Whereas now I tend to shy away a little bit from doing the clairvoyance because I don't really want to connect with people who've died. It's not my thing. Really, I can
Mm-hmm.
do it, but it's not really the direction I'm going in or who I am anymore. It's not that. But
Mm-hmm.
I certainly understand it, and I know that if and sometimes it does come through, especially when I'm doing numerology, because
Mm-hmm.
numerology develops your extrasensory perception. And of course, I could be doing somebody's birth chart, and the next thing I know, then I'm getting information about somebody's mom has just crossed, and they'll give me their name and they'll give me what they crossed with. They'll show me, how it happened, and
Mm-hmm.
then I give those people like a little confirmation. But it's very seldom that I put myself there because I find when I work with that part of my consciousness, it drains me a little bit, and
Yeah.
I would rather not go there.
Yeah. I ran into a ghost when I was 17, and of all things, in a hotel in London, my friends ended up being in the haunted room. And it's a very famous hotel in London, and they were having a dock strike, so they had to give every room away. And this is a room that when I was removed from the hotel by the police because they found out there was a medium in there stirring things up, and they said, "Are you? Did you know you were a medium?" And I said, and at the time I was 5'3" and 115 pounds, and I said, "No, I think I'm a small." But bad joke, but it was really what I felt. And but I ran into a real ghost. It changed, saw it come across the room, watched it walk through a friend of mine, blackened the room and everything. I got the hell out of there. And that is not something I care to. Earthbound spirits are not my thing.
I get that. I totally get it. I've had my own darkened things taking place as well, and it's just keep away
Well,
from me. I'm all about sort of, I'm trying to keep my vibe as high as I possibly can.
right. And they're looking to get something that you may not want to give. So
Mm.
speaking of that, how do you protect your own energy?
Well, for a long time, I wasn't doing it properly, and it was only when I met this guy called Anthony Griselga that he told me that you really got to start your energetic hygiene and step it up. Especially this was in the height when I was doing a lot of the psychic stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
because could see like grey patches like Velcro in my auric system, and I was like, oh no. So I was like, okay. So the light thing is probably my go-to. I just imagine myself in a beautiful violet or white or golden
Mm-hmm.
bubble of light. But then I also use things like the essence sprays from the color mirrors as well,
Mm-hmm.
as extra layers of protection as well, because they're amazing for the electromagnetics around the auric system and stuff, and they
Yeah.
they have different functions depending on what color frequency you're
Right.
working with.
I use a lot of dragon's blood, which is a Native American mixture of floral essences. And when I really decide, okay, I've had enough of being interfered with, I'll go into my bedroom or whatever room I think it is, blast it out with that. That always works.
Dragon's blood, I've not even heard of that before. That sounds amazing.
You can get it online. It's called dragon's blood. You just put a few drops in a spray bottle. But I also use a Christian prayer, and that's some people don't like it because it's got angels in it and stuff. But it's called the Violet Flame, and it goes with Ascended Master Saint Germain and
Mm,
Archangel Zadkiel.
beautiful.
But you ask them to come in your house, remove all low, discordant, misused, and misunderstood energy from every surface, every piece of fabric, everything. And then you have them take it to the big laundromat in the sky. and it runs it through the Christed white light, which is why people don't like it. 'Cause you can put it through this white light depending on who you are, and then they bring it back to you. So you're not losing any energy from your house. You're just making sure it's clean. And I've taught when I teach a class, that's the first thing I teach them is I give them that prayer and I said, consider using this. I can't tell you to use it, but consider using it. There was a woman who was home alone during COVID one day and she decided, oh, I'm just going to try it. And she used it and she said, am I nuts or does this room seem brighter? Then she had the one or two, she only had two friends that ever visited her house because it was during COVID. And this friend came over and she goes, did you change the drapes in here? It's so much lighter. And she goes, oh my God, it's true. It really worked. So ever since then, she said, at least every other day, she's clearing it out. She said, I had no idea. And she wasn't doing black magic or anything. She was just dealing with the energy and the energies that flow around us. Although you and I like to say, oh, they're all lovely and wonderful and good. Some of them have a little bitty shadier side.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because I mean, for a long time, like, I used to have people coming around to our house when we lived in down south. So we
Hmm.
moved when I left recruitment, and we just rented a house for 4 years in the Margaret River wine region, and because I was kind of like, new in this game. I used to just have people coming around to the house all the time. So sometimes I'd have two people a day. And of course, they'd be bringing all their energies into the house. And it created a bit of chaos. I wasn't sleeping and, oh, we were having the fire alarm going off in the middle of the night and all sorts of stuff. So I just literally never see people face to face anymore.
Hmm.
An online person, that
Hmm.
works for me. I don't get as impacted by anything really when I work online. So, but it was so draining. Even like when we when we run retreats, and we've run 9 retreats over the past 2 years. At the end of it, like I've aged by about like 10 years, and it takes me so long to come back into alignment
Get your own
because
self-centered. Yeah, COVID was, I know it was a horrible thing to happen in the world, made everybody go home, but my guide sent me home and they said, we'll tell you when go back out because I was reading 4 days a week with the public, but not at my house. And I got into COVID and after knitting more baby blankets than anyone should ever knit, and finally deciding to use my stuff a different way. Um, I found that COVID was really a blessing because it took me out of the world, not only because there was a lot of nasty germs out there, but because it isolates me. So when I don't go out all that much. I mean, I'm not agoraphobic. I can go to places when I have to, but I don't go seeking. Like I decided, well, I'd make the big venture and go to the grocery store because we have really good grocery stores around us with really fast delivery, so I don't ever have to go to. And actually, after shopping for 50 years as an adult, I was ready to give that one up. But I decided I'm going to try going in a grocery store. It took me 3 hours to unbuzz from being in that environment. And
I get it. I'm exactly the same, Nancy. I can't go. My husband forces me to go on a Saturday sometimes, and I'm just like I always feel like I'm in everybody's way. I just can't get into it. It's too much. It's way too much. So the hermit lifestyle is who I've become. But
mhm.
I like that. I really like
So
it.
and
It's
I
like I
think
wouldn't change anything.
it's not it's not a negative. I asked my kids and I said, well, as long as you go and take care of most, they can't go to the rock shop and find the crystals I need to find and stuff like that, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can't do that on the phone or on a computer. But anyway, so for all of you who've decided, maybe am I weird because I don't want to go out? No, baby, you're not weird.
No, just do it.
Do you think psychic abilities are innate and can anyone develop them?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I don't feel gifted or anything like that. I'm not in ego. I think everybody is completely the same. We've all got the capacity to be able to develop any aspect of self. Consciousness is consciousness. We're all connected. You know, there's the collective subconscious. We're all part of the divine. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
choice of whether or not you choose to go there or not. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I did. And and there's still a lot that I still need to learn. But
Oh, there's always stuff to learn. That's the best part
yeah,
of it.
I know I want to start going out of my body again, I think.
Ah, that's a fun game.
Hmm.
How has your work changed your worldview or beliefs about life and death?
Oh, well, I'm not scared of death at all. I have
Hmm.
no fear. I know that we're eternal. We're ancient, immortal beings of light. We're living out temporary human experiences. I know I've had too much evidence that there's nothing to fear. The only thing I'd probably fear a little bit is how I'm going to die, because I don't
Hmm.
want to be like in a fire or drown or anything like or a really horrific car accident. I'd like to
Hmm.
just pass away peacefully in sleep. Thanks very much,
Hmm.
as I'm sure we all do. But there's no, there's nothing like that. It's like I've completely evolved to the point where I feel like I've remembered the truth, and I even start and like I understand that this is just a simulation. It's a game that we're playing. This
Hmm.
we're just the avatar. The player is the divine aspect of self,
Hmm.
and there's lots of different levels. And I feel like the Earth plane is needed. As a lot to come in
Hmm.
and help it. During this process of the ascension. But I feel like there's probably 12 different levels that we can attain within
Hmm.
this sort of structure and
Hmm.
template. And I think there's so much to explore. So yeah, I'm just eager really to delve as deep into it all as I possibly can.
Okay. What's one of the most powerful readings you've ever done and one that really touched you or made you see things differently?
Um, well, I suppose, if are you talking about a reading that I've done or that I've experienced from someone else?
You can, well, however you want to, readings like you did it, you experienced it with someone, you worked with a group and came up with something, whatever.
Hmm. Well, you see, I mean, it's just about all of them. I find um, profound.
Hmm.
So each time there's something unique and amazing. There's two things that come to mind when you ask me that question. The first thing is when I was 16, I went for my very first tarot card reading
Hmm.
in Leeds with my gran, and it was a
Hmm.
psychic fair. And I spotted this lady sitting over in the corner, and she was called Yvonne Charleston Foley. She was this big blonde lady, and I just connected with her energy. And I
Hmm.
went over and sat down. She read my cards and it blew my mind. It was everything that she said that day and it was recorded. Has actually happened. It's become part of my life experience. So she told me from that age that I was going to be involved, in this type of
Hmm.
work. And so that really gave me evidence from a very, very early point in my life that this is true, I suppose. And then one of the readings that I did with a lady once, she came in to see me and she walked in and I said, "Oh, congratulations." And I could see her very clearly. She's wearing like this black dress, but she had a big bump, and I was just like,
Hmm.
you know, and she was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And then I looked again, and the bump had gone, and I was like, "Oh, I sorry, I thought you were pregnant." And she was like, "No, no, I'm not." And anyway, a couple of weeks later, she came in and she said, "Oh, I'm like, I just wanted you to know that I'm pregnant," And it was, but I literally saw the body, even though the body obviously didn't look pregnant.
Hadn't
I saw,
changed yet. You saw what was coming.
yeah. So that was quite a profound sort of metamorphosis that took place.
Yeah, and
And
those are
so
hard to explain to people, you know.
mhm.
And it's when you look again and it's not there, you kind of wonder, should I say something?
Yeah, yeah, because the worst thing that you can say to a lady is, "Oh, are you pregnant?" And they're like, "No, I'm just fat." And you're
Hmm.
like, "Uh-oh."
Well, when I used to
Trying
weigh
to
over 300 pounds, I used to get a lot of, oh, no, you're just fat.
backtrack.
And how do you deliver sensitive or complex messages?
Well, I'm really good with that. That's probably my core skill, is I'm very good at, sort of understanding, listening to people. And I empathize because I can feel it. I think I'm a journeyed soul. I'm a life path 9. in numerology. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
that I've had many, many incarnations here, I think, on the earth plane and off planet as well. And I just have this innate ability to be able to feel into how people are feeling. And a lot of that, I think, as well, is probably my upbringing, because my mum and my sister are very sensitive, my gran as well. And it was almost, I was indoctrinated into
Mm-hmm.
being able to, sort of feel in and be the diplomat, being a Libra. And I've always been the diplomat within the family and trying to
Mm-hmm.
help everybody else and put everybody else's needs above my own, and always been there to listen to everybody else, and always kept my own stuff really to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of my blueprint, I think.
Okay. And then what advice would you give to someone who's just starting to explore their gifts? And one of the reasons I asked this question is this whole series was really based to give people an idea that we all struggle with a lot of the things they think they're struggling with every day, And but what would be a piece of advice you'd give them about starting to explore their new gifts?
Just keep going, just keep going, and it's not going to happen overnight. Rome
Mm-hmm.
wasn't built in a day, like you, Nancy, and I, like I'm 53 now. And so this has been like a journey for that whole time, really. It's been
Mm-hmm.
an evolution, and there's a lot of shedding that you have to do as you process your own emotional stuff and your perceptions of reality, your belief systems, they all have to evolve, and you got to do your shadow work and all of this sort of stuff. So just don't rush it, just
Mm-hmm.
just enjoy the process. Try and trust. Don't be like me. Trust what you're receiving, and then
Mm-hmm.
ask for proof. And of course, one of the best ways that we've got now, I find I use things like ChatGPT to decode the symbology that I receive during meditations, or,
Mm-hmm.
those little inspired moments. And I'll be like, right, okay, so this has happened to me today, and blah, 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 what could this possibly mean? Like, for example, I had a dream the other day, and I woke up, and the first thing that was in my head was like, Icarus, don't fly too close to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, how interesting. And I sort of vaguely remembered who Icarus was from school and whatever. And so I just put it into ChatGPT and I said, well, look, based around, what I do and blah, 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 what could this mean for me? And it just gave me this amazing paragraph decoding it. And it was just like, yeah, that's exactly right. It was just so in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, you can even use technology to be
Mm-hmm.
able to help you with the interpretation of the messages that you receive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And are there any daily habits or exercise that you would recommend to someone building their powers?
Yeah, so I always think quiet time at the beginning of the day is essential. It certainly is for me. So I always take my dogs out for a walk in the morning, and I'm out for probably about an hour and a half. And during that time, I'll do some breath work, or I will do just silent time, connect with nature, and just make sure you get a lot of sleep as well. Like I feel that sleep, good nutrition, lots of water, treat your body like a temple, really. And you'll
Mm-hmm.
find that, it doesn't mean to say you have to abstain from having a drink of wine or whatever, but just do everything in moderation, and just be kind to yourself, because, you'll find that the more you treat yourself with respect, the more
Mm-hmm.
you'll receive that from the world around you.
Very good. How can someone find a trustworthy person in the psychic community?
Well, I've not found one yet. I'm joking. It's difficult. You've got to really use your discernment. I don't see psychics or anything like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I get a message, it's always through, like, my sister will come round and she's had a reading. She's like, "Oh, this clairvoyant said that, that about you," and I was just, "Oh, don't tell me, Becky. I don't want to know." So other than that lady, Yvonne Charleston Foley,
Mm-hmm.
that I was talking about earlier on, I've never had a good reading off anybody. I must admit, I try and shy away from it because it doesn't resonate with me. I don't want to know, like, I'm not interested in my future. I'd
You're
rather
not
just allow things
not
to
into
unfold.
predictive readings then.
Nah, not at all. I used to be, there would have been a time in my life where I would have jumped at the chance of having a reading, but I'm just too, when you're just comfortable in your own skin and you know the direction you're going in and yeah, you may have like good days and bad days, but overall you sort of don't need other people's guidance. I just trust my own inner compass, my sovereign powers. That I am the creator of this reality that I'm experiencing, and I
Hmm.
perceive this in some way. I don't want anybody giving me outside influences or anything that's gonna sort of, I don't know, maybe not be in alignment with the path that I'm going on. I don't want to be distracted or discouraged or taken off on the wrong track because of something that somebody said to me. So that's
Hmm.
one of the reasons why I don't do predictive readings ever for people. The
Hmm.
types of sessions that I run are guiding people to find their own answers from within, asking Socratic questions. So using the Oversoul Codex. So,
Hmm.
it's a very different form of interpretation, but it's offering power back to the individual.
Yeah. And also, give them a chance, listen to what they say. But if something seems wrong, really don't say, oh, well, I'm just being silly. No, you're not. Something inside you is saying that. Or if you find a reader and you go, this person's wonderful, and I can connect to where they are and what they're doing. It's kind of, and this is the easiest question in the lot, Hayden. What's the biggest lesson you've learned on your psychic journey?
The biggest lesson.
Yeah.
It's to be able to sort of discern probably the difference between ego and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for a lot of the time I was in ego, and I'm still trying to figure out sometimes where the ego comes in and where spirit takes over and vice versa. So there's sometimes there is um that sort of voice inside the head that wants to just keep you safe, but actually just keeps you stuck. The
Mm-hmm.
ego can be like passive or dominant, and
Mm-hmm.
it can try and like rule the roost and control the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been an ongoing sort of battle with that because I am like I like to feel like I'm here for the people,
Mm-hmm.
to be of service, but I don't want that to be like an accolade for my ego. It's like, oh, there you go, you're doing a good job, well
Mm-hmm.
done, pat on the back, it's it's so there is that aspect. So I'm always questioning my intentions behind the deliverance of any of the work that I do because, it's like if it's ego based, then it's not really going to help anybody, is it?
No. Okay, we're kind of done with my questions, except for what is it that you really do? We've talked about skills you worked in and what you worked with. What do you do now? If someone comes, why would someone choose to come to Hayden Crawford?
Well, I help people to remember their cosmic blueprint.
Okay.
So, I'm more about your multidimensional aspects of self and how all those things impact on your current incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
So I've developed a signature process, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called the Oversoul Codex, and it's a multidimensional blueprint of your soul, and it combines things like numerology. I use Pythagorean
Mm-hmm.
numerology, color frequencies as well, and archetypal wisdom, and it helps to reveal the unique energetic patterns, gifts, challenges, and soul
Mm-hmm.
lessons that you've chosen to explore in this incarnation. So it's essentially a map that helps you understand who you truly are beyond your personality and how you align with your highest potential. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a way of helping people remember their sovereignty
Mm-hmm.
and so that they can reconnect with their multidimensionality and reunite with their cosmic families. So I'm a huge creator. I've
Mm-hmm.
written a book, The Starseed Ascension Guide, which
Mm-hmm.
actually details my whole journey
Mm-hmm.
um, through the color spectrum. So the
Right.
book was really it's like an autobiography. So it goes through my own way of healing trauma, awakening my soul purpose and reconnecting with my cosmic family,
Mm-hmm.
which has been very important for me to help me understand my mission as an Andromedan, a predominant
Mm-hmm.
Andromedan anyway. I'm because I like creating, I developed a cosmic family oracle cards as well, which
Oh,
is
those are cool.
a deck of 88 activation cards, which incorporate the wisdom of color therapy and
Mm-hmm.
numerology through different archetypes, and they feature 7 different galactic races, archangels, and ascended masters as well. So they're a beautiful creation. I've also developed another deck of cards called the Oversoul Codex
Mm-hmm.
cards as well, which I use within sessions. So
Mm-hmm.
within a typical 90-minute session that I would do for somebody, I would use the color mirrors behind me and get them to intuitively pick from the color mirrors bottles,
Mm-hmm.
ones that kind of represent the answer to specific questions, such as, which bottle represents where you're at in your life right now. And, someone might pick
Mm-hmm.
like the duality bottle. And then I would read that with the card choice that they've done. I'll bring in their human design, the major
Mm-hmm.
influences in their astrology, and the major influences then in their numerology.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd create a signature process, including an activation that's very transformational, and ask Socratic questions to help them find their own answers from within. So I also have a community of star seeds called the Oversoul Codex Collective,
Mm-hmm.
and people can get a 3-month free access to that at the moment as well to dip their toes in, start learning a bit
Mm-hmm.
about color therapy, numerology, about how the Oversoul Codex really operates,
Mm-hmm.
and also I'm developing a game. Now this is kind of I haven't even spoken to anybody about this apart from my husband, but I'm in the process of developing a board game called The Final Gate, and
Cool.
it's like a travel knockout game show
Mm-hmm.
with contestants where each player has a selection of contestants that they are
Mm-hmm.
working with as they go around the different wonders of the world and to reach the final gate, and they have to collect activation keys along the way. So it's a very, very powerful game which helps people to develop their intuitive gifts,
Right.
look at their knowledge and also their strategic gameplay as well. Because board games have really boomed recently as well, and
Mm-hmm.
in the zeitgeist, people are starting to want to sort of go back into sort of gatherings with family members and
Mm-hmm.
use games. But it's almost like a spiritual evolution board game that I'm creating as well. So that's who I am. I love creating concepts, ideas,
Mm-hmm.
developing things to the next level. And of course, my YouTube channel as well, which I host 2 podcasts on there. One is called Cosmic Conversations, where I interview the world's leading sort of thought leaders, consciousness
Mm-hmm.
leaders in metaphysics, or people that have been abducted by aliens or had ET, channelings and all sorts of different people. And of course, the numerology show, which is where I interview the world's leading numerologists as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many strings to my bow. I mean, this business, the Dreamtime Academy, has been operating now for like 12 years. So
Good.
I've got courses in numerology, color therapy, cosmic consciousness that are all there within my learning portal as well. So it is like an ecosystem now
Mm-hmm.
where people can dip in, reach any level that they want and but also get a lot of free content as well. So
Okay.
yeah,
We're going to have all that information in the description below so you can find it so that we can go get you in touch with Hayden if that's where you feel like you ought to be. I totally agree with you. I've never understood people say, "Oh, well, I don't like numerology because I don't like adding numbers or doing things." That's how I teach tarot. I start with numerology because if you get 1 through 10 in the tarot and then understand what the 4 suits are about, you've got more than 3/4 of the deck. I mean, you're done. Then
absolutely.
and there's so many things in color. As a child, I was a watercolorist, and I mean, I sold my watercolor paintings to grown-up people, not just didn't put up a little stand on the front of the house. And I really, really do feel that so much of our own temperament can be valued by how we deal with color and letting it into our life. Too much of what we see in black and white. Although
That's
we,
so true.
you know,
It's so
we
true,
dull it
yeah.
down, kids. I have a thing on my phone where I can push and I can increase the intensity of any image that's on my phone. And I do that every once in a while. I go, whoa, it's a lot brighter than what they're sending out. So, well, Hayden, it's been absolutely lovely having you here. And
Oh, thank you.
I've been toying with the idea of, besides psychic profiles, I'm going to be working with another psychic. I've created a couple of metaphysical tools that I was just told by the universe, you're going to create this, wimp. And so I created it. And I want to have some other psychics that are creative explain how that energy works so that people can see what it's like to go through that creative process. So I'll probably have you back, and it will probably take us 14 days to figure out exactly the time zones.
Yeah, I'd love that. It's been a joy connecting with you, Nancy. I genuinely mean that, and you've got lovely energy, and thank you for asking such amazing questions, and for giving me the opportunity to share, what I know with your tribe. I appreciate
Well,
it.
I'm glad you could come over, and I hope this will help people. And we're going to say good. I'm saying good night, and he's saying good morning. So we're on other sides of the world. Bye.